Well, good afternoon or good evening, good morning, whatever time this is in your place on the planet. My name is Rita Marsh. I'm a co-founder of the Center for Human Flourishing in Carbondale, Colorado. And I'm speaking to you today from the land of the Nooch people who were the inhabitants of this land before the settlers came here, and I honor their presence here, which unfortunately is not so anymore because they were moved to Utah to reservation. But I feel it's important to speak of their beingness here on this land at one time. And this is a mountain behind our town, which is sentinel to the valley. And I'm here today to give you an overview of the integral health approach to well-being and to hopefully give you a taste of it and give you some ideas of having interest to look into it further for yourself. So a little bit about myself and my background. I'm a retired family nurse practitioner, and I've been with this organization, the Center for Human Flourishing, since 2003, and we bring programs to our valley. And this last year or more, because of the COVID situation, we've sent programs out through the internet, through Zoom, and we plan to continue doing some of that. But my background in nursing was very varied, and at one point I got very discouraged about seeing people in dire situations in the emergency room, and realizing it was a lot had to do with their health care choices. And so I began to investigate, both for myself personally and for the patients I was dealing with, how could I look at health in a more holistic way? And that's when I came across the work of Dr. Elliot Dasher. And Elliot Dasher was integral medicine physician. In fact, he was one of the first to open a clinic for Kaiser Permanente in the Washington area back a number of years ago. And he had practiced internal medicine for 21 years. And then he began an intensive study of Eastern philosophy, psychology, and meditation practices. And he spent time in India looking deeply into the wisdom traditions of India and Asia. Elliot's a past fellow of the Institute of Noetic Sciences, and he was on the editorial board of the Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine. Currently, Elliot's teaching approaches to health and healing with an emphasis on meditation, consciousness, and well-being. It was his book, Integral Health, The Path to Human Flourishing, that wore itself into my heart. And it has become the touchstone of what we do regarding bringing programs to our community. So in this presentation, I'm just going to give you a quick glimpse into the integral health model. And hopefully, as I said before, to encourage you to look at this model or another model of whole health that will help you come to a place of peace and flourishing in your lives. This is dear Elliot. He lives in Massachusetts, and we continue to be in touch. And currently he's doing a program of meditation online that I can send you information about if you're interested. And there'll be information how to be in touch with me at the end of this program. What is integral health? Well, it's the expansion of health and healing process that addresses the entire range of the human experience: biological, psychospiritual, relational or interpersonal, cultural or worldly, as Elliot calls that part of the model. It's really expansion of consciousness rather than a medical toolkit. The integral health approach will lead you to a more profound, precious, and enduring level of health, happiness, and wholeness. And that's a quote from Elliot's book. There are some terms that I'll be speaking about during this presentation, so I just wanted to give you an overview here as we get started so that you can understand these terms and perhaps look into it, as I said before, more fully after I've concluded the program today. So integral health is self-generated and self-cultivated, and it leads to a comprehensive, holistic, and far-reaching healing of body, mind, and spirit that's immune to life's adversities, including disease, aging, and death. And these quotes are from Elliot's book. Authentic happiness that we're able to achieve should we take a path of journeying in the integral health model. The authentic happiness is that which arises from within and is expansive, robust, passionate, and unaffected by the circumstances of daily life. Genuine wholeness is another aspect that comes to us should we take this journey into integral health. The genuine wholeness is that which experiences the interconnection with all of life, a seamless existence, and an uninterrupted oneness that is accompanied by ease, universal loving kindness, and lightness of being. And this path will lead to a place of human flourishing, which Elliot describes as a profound, hearty, and sustained health, happiness, wholeness, and inner peace. And I know that there's many of us that aspire to have this in our lives today, especially with the challenges of the last year and a half with the COVID situation and other things that are going on our planet. So the model that Elliot has developed, he actually looked at Kim Wilber's very complex model of human development and used the concept of the 4 quadrants, and looking at a person as body, mind, and spirit. Body being the most dense aspect of ourselves, the physical aspect, the mind carrying the emotions, which of course affect the body, and spirit being that which infuses us with life. And we're held in the realm of spirit, or divine, or connection to the oneness or wholeness, however you might want to phrase it. And now it's so obvious that we're grounded and need to be grounded and in relationship with the earth. And I'll be updating this slide to show that aspect of, and the importance of our relationship with the earth. We have personal aspect of our being, which is in the upper 2 quadrants that you'll see shortly. And we have a shared aspect of our being, which are the lower quadrants here. We have the outer aspect of our being, which shows up in the world, and we have the inner aspect of our being, which are those things that drive how we show up in the outer world. Now we see the quadrants in this slide. Again, we have the body, mind, and spirit, and we see that we're evolving through these aspects of ourselves as we grow in life. We see now that we have the biological and worldly aspects, which are the outer aspects of our being, how we show up in the world. And on the inner, we have the psychospiritual and interpersonal realms that are the inner aspect of how we are and how we behave in the world. I'm just going to go back to this other slide for a minute, because we can begin to look at the aspect, I think, that's been most challenged during this time of COVID. And well, that's perhaps not right. Perhaps our psycho-spiritual aspect has been most challenged. But in the biological realm, there are 3 lines of development that Elliot has us look at. One is nutrition, the other is fitness, and another is self-regulation. And I do have another slide that does show those lines of development, so you clearly see them, but I realized I hadn't popped that in here today. But let me just talk about the 3 realms, the 3 lines of development in the biological realm: nutrition, fitness, and self-regulation. So we can be asking ourselves, how am I doing in this area of nutrition? Am I eating nutritious, wholesome meals? Have I been choosing foods that are supporting my immune system? Am I staying well hydrated with water and other good hydrating liquids? How am I feeling around this area in my life? Are there some shifts I could be, or I've been wanting to be making? In the line of development around fitness, I could be asking myself, have I been exercising enough? Am I taking care of my physical body, staying strong and vibrant? Am I doing aerobic exercise to keep my cardiovascular system healthy and strong? Have I been engaged in regular stretching exercises to keep my joints supple? And if not, why haven't I been doing that? And how could I be seeking assistance in this area to get started on a program to increase my level of fitness? We know that walking is one of the most advantageous things that we can be doing. 20 minutes or more of a walk each day can be very beneficial. Stretching, taking a yoga class, or doing Tai Chi, Qigong, which also works with the energy body, 2 or 3 times a week can be very beneficial. An aerobic exercise of your choice, where you raise your heart rate within the range for your age. And you can find information about this through the internet. One of the sites that I like to go to is hopkinsmedicine.org. Their health, wellness, and prevention department has the calculations for understanding your target heart rate. So you can learn how to calculate that for yourself, and then set your goal to do aerobic exercise of your choice at least 3 times a week. And then the other exercises to look into, especially as we age, is strengthening exercises, weightlifting, light weights, several repetitions, and doing that 2 or 3 times a week can be very beneficial. So just sitting back and asking yourself, how is my body? How fit am I feeling? And are the foods that I'm eating supporting my level of fitness or not? Am I eating too much? And would I like to be losing some weight so that I can feel more agile doing my exercises? One aspect of exercise too is that it can bring the mind into a calm place. And one thing that I like to do is a walking meditation. And this was inspired by the teacher Thich Nhat Hanh, who says that if you walk slowly and mindfully, regulating your steps to diaphragmatic breathing, this can be a very beneficial mind calming and also physical exercise. And he suggests that you can regulate your breathing by 4 simple sentences. And I'll just share those with you now. As you breathe, you say to yourself, breathing in, I calm my body and mind. Breathing out, I smile. Breathing in, I say, dwelling in the present moment. And out breath, I know that this is the only moment. You can find the information about Thich Nhat Hanh's walking meditation online. And he always says, enjoy. The other line of development in the biological area is self-regulation. And choosing and establishing a food, exercise, sleep, rest, balance that supports the homeostasis of the body is extremely important. And am I able to self-regulate? Am I able to keep in balance the food and exercise and the rest and the activity so that my cells are getting the best opportunity for restoration each day? And especially now, as we are challenged with the COVID virus, are these things that I'm choosing and doing supporting my immune system? And the self-regulation is certainly a strong point of being able to manage that aspect. So I would like now to move to the psychospiritual area of the integral health model. And in this realm, there are again 3 lines of development that Dr. Dasher presents in his book. One is emotional, another is cognitive, and the third is cognitive, and that's a word that we don't hear very often, so I'll be explaining about that. But in the emotional realm, it's some things I could be asking myself. Is my emotional state reactive and motivated by anger, fear, or uncontrolled desires? We've certainly been challenged during these days of COVID. There's so much fear and concern about personal health, family health, relatives we may not have seen for a long time. And so realizing that our emotional health definitely affects our biological health. How can we assess it, and how can we bring things more into balance if they aren't at this time? So am I in a reactive state, motivated by anger, fear, uncontrolled desires? Or am I more inclined to have swings between afflictive emotions and transient pleasure, the up and down, swinging from feeling good to feeling not so good? Also, our emotions can be expressed in body language. So what is my body language expressing? Do these expressions of emotion place me in the categories above, or am I in a place of calm and response rather than the reactive state that is spurred on by fear and uncertainties? And if I am more on the reactive side, what practices or what habits could I be taking on to help me bring me more into balance? And one of the practices that is very, very helpful is purposeful breathing. Just a sequence of 10 deep breaths is a great practice to bring you into a peaceful, compassionate state. And you can do this at your will if you remember to do it. And practicing it 3 times a day can be very beneficial. When you wake up in the morning, taking 3 deep breaths 10 deep breaths before you get out of bed, before you have lunch, pausing and taking 10 deep breaths, before you go to sleep at night. The same, a sequence of 10 deep breaths. There's another practice that can be very balancing, and that's the heart coherence practice from Heart Math Institute. And if you want to join me in this practice, I'll just guide you through it now, and you can get a sense for it, and then you can find more information if you need to, and do this as a practice. And I know this is something that Jim Garrison and Humanity Rising folks do every morning on their, before they move into their talk with their panel of experts. So the heart coherence is just bringing your attention to your heart. And you can do that by simply placing your hand over your heart. And you focus your attention. And as you focus your attention on your heart, imagine your breath is flowing in and out of this area. Breathing in and out of your heart. And as you breathe through this area of the heart, bring to mind someone you love, or a pet that is precious to you, or a place in nature where you feel very comfortable where you feel at peace, bring that feeling into your heart. It could be feeling appreciation for the good things in your life. And just breathing in and out of your heart, feeling this positive feeling, feeling the goodness, and feeling grateful for it. And it's just a 2 or 3 minute practice. And again, this is something you could do morning, midday, at the end of your day, to bring your body, mind, your heart, mind into coherence. Oh, I was going to say about the 10 deep breath practice. If you're standing in line at the grocery store checkout, or at a post office, or a place waiting to pick up food, 10 deep breaths as you're standing there. That's a good way to bring yourself to a place of peace and balance. I'm going to go back now to the integral model here, and we'll talk about, still in the psychospiritual realm, the cognitive line of development. And here it's the stages of progress here are from reactive conditioned self-protective patterns to a reasoning cognition that seeks a larger truth, meaning and purpose and fulfillment. And at the most subtle area of development, realizing the awareness that all is one. So discerning reliable information sources on the best way and means to respond to the concerns about the challenges the virus has presented us with. And following guidance of expert sources is certainly a good step in developing and maintaining a responsive versus reactive state to this situation. Practices that support present moment awareness are especially helpful. Meditation practice, 15 or 20 minutes a day of just quieting the mind and being present to a thought or a word that helps you come away from the chatter that is going on in your mind. Practice of yoga, Tai Chi or Qigong. These are all practices that support a present moment awareness and are especially helpful. And if you need more support with this, I'm sure in your community you could find practitioners that would help you on this path. So the capacity to move to a responsive response to life situations. The third line of development here that I mentioned, this word cognitive. Cognitive is the source and character of your motivations. And you can ask yourself, am I responding to this situation from a fearful stance? Am I being pulled away from my knowing of what my purpose here in this life is? Am I being instinctual and reactive, or am I moving from a vision and values that I've established through my culture, my education? Am I moving from a place of wisdom, wholeness, and a sense of oneness with the qualities of loving kindness and compassion? Am I aligned with my life's purpose? And am I consciously aware that I am, and continuing to grow my skills and my capacities to fulfill that life purpose? This is a big one. But again, it has to do with coming into a place of knowing oneself. And again, a daily practice of meditation or complementary contemplative practice builds the spiritual and emotional muscle to respond rather than to react. So as I said, this is a big aspect of how we're being challenged in these times. And I just encourage everyone to pause and have a look and realize that in your community, in your networks, you probably have a lot of support available to you should you feel that you need to make a switch or gain some tools in this area to come to a place of calm abiding in your mind. So the two tools, the breath tool, 10 deep breaths, the heart coherence technique, those can be easily practiced. And I encourage you to pick those tools up or anything else that's going to help you in this realm of the psychospiritual quadrant of emotional, cognitive, and cognitive lines of development. Now, the interpersonal realm, which is down here on the lower left as we're looking at it, this has to do with relationships. And first and foremost, it has to do with relationship with self. So the lines of development here are personal, family, and community. And in the personal line of development, I can be asking myself, am I taking care of myself in all the aspects of flourishing that are expressed in this model? Am I feeling in right relationship with myself? And thus, if I am, I'm more prepared to be a reliable support for family and friends and community members as I may be requested or needed in these times. These are deep questions. It takes just a little curiosity and a pause to bring myself to ask these questions so that I'm moving into a more balanced way of being in the world. Especially the personal, am I taking care of myself so that I'm available in a responsive way, not a reactive way? Am I available to myself, my family, my community? And relationship with family. Oh, a big one now and has been for a time. Am I listening to my family members? Am I really listening and receiving their concerns and receiving them in a responsive way and not a reactive way? Am I allowing my husband, my daughters to have their response to the world situation and let it be theirs and not try to change or mitigate it unless, of course, I feel there's a concern that the response is detrimental to their health or well-being? These are some questions I can ask about my relationship with family. And am I being an observer rather than an interrupter? And that's, again, is very challenging. In regards to my relationship with community, Am I listening to the needs and concerns and desires of community members? Where could I be most helpful in supporting a community response to the situation that is not based in fearful reaction and disenfranchising behaviors? Where can I help my community to be responsive in these challenging times? Am I aware that my personal choices may affect the economic well-being of businesses in my community? I know that here in our area, we have a lot of businesses who are in the service industry. And so I've been asking myself, am I supporting these businesses? Am I realizing that their existence is needed, whether it's in pandemic shutdown or not? And am I aware that my personal choices affect their economic well-being? And some of these businesses are the movie theaters, the entertainment business, the churches, the organizations that provide workshops, the organizations that provide exercise. How can I make choices to support them and not put myself or others at risk? So the three areas in interpersonal, again, are: how am I flourishing in relationship with myself, in relationship with my family members, and relationship with my community? Now, the last quadrant that we'll look at is what Dr. Dasher calls worldly. And this is how we show up in the world. And the three lines of development here are work, social activism, and generativity. So work in the world. How is my career, my profession, or my past profession, or my life experiences placing me in a position to help others, to help or volunteer in a workplace that might need support? Is my work meaningful to me this time, or have I been shut down because of the COVID situation? Have I been displaced? Have I been categorized as a non-essential worker? How have I been challenged, and where do I need to pause and see, is this the work I really want to be doing in this life? Or perhaps there's something out there that can be more meaningful for me and for my community. These are big questions. Myself being retired, I've been thinking, but how is it I can step out and assist in this situation? And I've been realizing that the offerings that we have here at the Center for Human Flourishing in bringing programs that support people in their biological, psychospiritual, interpersonal, and worldly realms is the important work for me to be doing at this time. But that could change. In the line of development around social activism, I can ask myself, where is my time and energy most needed in my community? Do I need to be involved in concern about Black Lives Matter or the LGBTQ situation, in caring for the environment, in making sure our community has clean water, clean air, in supporting organizations that are protecting the environment and disencouraging deforestation that has been noted to be a huge issue that dealing with the climate change that we're facing. There are a lot of areas of social activism to look at, to be involved in, but again, the most important thing is to come back to how am I caring for myself biologically, interpersonally, and psychospiritually, and do I have the time and energy right now to be engaged in social activism, or do I need to bring things into balance before I can step out into this realm and be active and effective? The other line of development here is generativity, and that has to do with efforts giving back to others and teaching others what we might have learned in our lifetime. This has to do with eldering, being present to offer advice or offer counsel should someone ask, or perhaps the offering you have is to demonstrate a steady state of compassionate emotional response toward yourself and others that you can communicate with during this time. Many people give back as teachers, as trainers, as helping in community committees that are helping communities respond to the COVID situation. How can I best give back to others to help secure a better place for my grandchildren and the 7 generations to come? So I know this has been a quick overview into this integral health model, and what we do with a person who wants to learn this map more fully and to use it as an assessment tool is we go to each quadrant and ask people key questions in each area. And if they have a line that begins here at 0 and 10 at the outer part, the development being on a 0 to 10 scale, asking the questions about nutrition. We ask a person to put a dot on that line to see where they feel they are at this space and time with that line of development. And going around the map, doing each quadrant, each line of development, just putting a dot. And at the end of the questioning and coming to a quiet space, having people connect the dots and to see, is the wheel in balance or not? And where it's not in balance, what might action steps be that can be taken to bring the wheel back into balance? And so we noted that this is a very good tool to use as a map for whole person well-being, and doing an assessment every 3 months or so can help a person see the growth that they've established through a plan that they've made after the first assessment was done. So it's a map that can guide you on a path of balanced well-being. It's very subjective, but it's also introspective. Gives you an opportunity to come in and inward and really create a relationship with yourself about, while asking these questions. It's best to do in a guided, contemplative, still space. And you may realize, of course, going through this map, there's an area you hadn't even thought of that you're doing very well in. And that you can pat yourself on the back and say, oh my gosh, I really noticed that I didn't even think about it, but I've changed my eating pattern, and look, I lost 15 pounds in the last 2 months. rather than gaining the COVID-19 like many people have. So again, the model is a map to look at your interpersonal growth. And it's really about a growth in consciousness. And it's the growth to realize that awareness expands over a lifetime. And we move from being very involved in the I, ego person, to realizing, oh, there's a you out there. And then, oh, there's us. And definitely in this time of the COVID challenge, we realize there is an us. And we're involved in this in all our ways and fashions. And then at the outer level of each line of development, we come to the realization that there is all of us, that there's a unity consciousness, a realization of oneness with all sentient beings, with the earth, and with the cosmos. And we know that the slowing down of movement across the planet has shown us that when we come to rest, the earth and the waters come back to life, and they're able to come into balance without us moving around so rampantly around the globe. So I thank you for joining me during this time, and I really appreciate the opportunity that's been brought forth by We the World, by Angel and Callum, who are supported me coming onto this program, and for Rick Olick, who has for these 15 years or 16 years or more continued with his vision for unity. And so many other networks are now have joined into this. So there's a great number of people who are moving together in collaboration to make lives better for the people on the planet and to help create an atmosphere where the planet can revive and thrive. So I just want to come back to the slide with the definitions that Elliot had in here. The integral approach will lead you to a more profound, precious, and enduring level of health, happiness, and wholeness. Integral health is self-generated, self-cultivated, and it leads to a comprehensive, holistic, and far-reaching healing of body, mind, and spirit that is immune to life's adversities, including dis-ease, aging, and death. Authentic happiness we can attain that arises from within and is expansive, robust, passionate, and unaffected by the circumstances of daily life. We come to realize a genuine wholeness that experiences the interconnection of all life, a seamless existence, and an uninterrupted oneness that is accompanied by ease, universal loving kindness, and lightness of being, and human flourishing. Integral health, the path to human flourishing. A profound, hearty, and sustained health, happiness, wholeness, and inner peace. So I find my peace walking to the top of a hill here outside of town and making eye contact and gazing at this beautiful mountain. The Center for Human Flourishing is in Carbondale, Colorado. And I'll skip through, I think, to the last slide here so you can see where you can be in touch. Oop. Here, the Center for Human Flourishing is our website, and the email info@davinakent.org. Davinakent was our name for many years, and that was a name given to us by a Nutch elder. We asked for a name that meant a reconnection to spirit, and he gave us the sounds, Davinakent. And so we spelled it, and we kept that name until this last year when we realized that people didn't know who Davy or Davi was, and it was complicated to explain it. So we have, with Dr. Elliot Dasher's graciousness, we have taken the name, the Center for Human Flourishing, and in his book, Integral Health, The Path to Human Flourishing, you can read a chapter about what a Center for Human Flourishing is about. And we aspire to be that for our community and for any of those who wish to reach out to us and to connect with us. So appreciate very much being with you today. I hope that you will contact me if you have any questions about the presentation or want to know more about the things that I spoke about here. And Angel, I want to thank you very much for being the hostess behind the scene, being the representative for We the World. And I can sign off for now, if that's good.
Yes, thank you, Rita.